The Bottle Tree opened in December of 2019. We are bistro and beer garden. We were exceptionally excited. We were almost to the point where you couldn't even get in to eat dinner without a reservation.
We are a family-owned farm. We only have 2 acres. We farm very intensively using hydroponics and greenhouses. For us, COVID hit when the restaurants in Charlotte were closed because that was our 90% of our income. I don't even think I cried then. I cried later. But we just looked at each other and we said, well, we're gonna have to do something really different, really fast. And we also called all of our crew and told them not to come into work the next day, because I didn't know if I could make payroll in 2 weeks.
So when COVID hit, it was all hands to action call at CFSA because there was immediately issues with farmers markets shutting down around the state due to the shutdown orders. That kind of set in some panic for us at CFSA who work with those markets and understood that as they're shutting down, as they're losing these restaurant markets, these farmers were really going to be in a bind with having no immediate markets to sell their product.
Jared, who works with the Piedmont Culinary Guild and the Charlotte Mech Food Council and food councils around North Carolina, started talking to Chris Reed and some other folks about, well, how can CFSA serve underemployed service and hospitality workers as restaurants are closing?
The thing that makes the most sense right now is for us to figure out how can these farmers who have supplied these restaurant chains switch and supply these workers in their time of need. It's a pretty simple idea, but it popped in my head, and able to take that to the rest of our team at CFSA and build that small idea out into a grant pitch. Brought it to our food hub partners and our farm partners and said, will this work for you? And got their input.
So one of the advantages of Piedmont Culinary Guild is that we have almost 300 professional members that are chefs, farmers, brewers, distillers, all these people across the food space. And so having access to those 300 people to be able to send instant messaging to and get instant feedback from really helped us to move quickly. And CFSA, obviously being a professional organization, really managed that entire process.
Carolina Farm Stewardship Association has had a relationship with Blue Cross Blue Shield North Carolina Foundation for several years. When we had this idea, we immediately reached out to them and several other foundations just to see what emergency funding was going to be like to serve people in need. And Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation was so interested, they ended up bringing in the corporate side of Blue Cross Blue Shield.
They were able to fund the first cohort of 2,500 food boxes for 8 weeks. And we used the momentum of the funding for the first round to raise money for a second cohort.
And we were able to come together and write out a program guide basing it on a CSA model, and then over the course of those 3 weeks, launch the program according to that guide.
So what we did was we put out an I'll call in our email list that goes out every week and was like, all right guys, like this is a program that we have that's going on. If you feel as though your employees would need this help, there was a survey that they filled out. Once we got all of that data aggregated for the Charlotte market, was divided up between the 3 food hubs that serve the Charlotte market. Because we're a food hub, we were able to kind of get a bird's eye view of the whole food system and all of the farms that are in that system. These boxes serve as a really good way to move a lot of product in an efficient manner.
I heard about FarmsSHARE because Erin texted me and she said, I think something's coming up that's gonna be good for y'all. I want you to get involved in it. And that was sort of her tip off. And then they reached out to us and said, can you provide upwards of 700 heads of lettuce a week? And I was like, yes, we can, because we have it. And actually, we work with 2 different organizations with FarmsSHARE. Freshless got the majority, but we also worked with an organization called Catawba Farm and Food Coalition that's based here in this area in South Carolina. And so between the 2 of them, we moved an extra 800 heads of lettuce a week, and we moved it at a good rate. They weren't looking for like discount, drop bottom kind of stuff. They were fair in what they asked, and they made it so that I could afford to hire someone to do the extra packaging. This year, it all went to FarmsSHARE. It was like just right.
The director of PCG, Chris Reed, she thought that it would be a great spot to kind of wagon wheel for some restaurants in Gaston County. And I believe we ended up with about 6 different restaurants that were taking advantage of FarmsSHARE. I was receiving about 50 CSA boxes a week for about 8 weeks straight.
We reached out to our farming community to see what farmers needed access to new markets, and we had an unbelievably high response. It was amazing that our farmers kind of was like, you're going to do this program, we're going to support you as you help to support us. Here at the facility, we help facilitate how do we bridge, new farmers into different sustainable markets that they may see fit for themselves. And I think food insecurity is one of those markets that we want to see our farmers fit that need. The Growing Change is based in Scotland County. We kind of work hand in hand as a community partner. We really needed them on the distribution part because when we got to Scotland County, they already knew their stakeholders better than we knew them. And they already kind of had these pre-existing relationships with them. And they were able to offer us the labor part that, we needed once we got to Scotland County.
We're standing in one of the most challenged regions of North Carolina if you look at nearly any metric. When COVID-19 swept through, you took a hard-hit area and it got knocked down even harder. It's the local network that is so important to us small and medium-sized operations, especially one as creative as what you see here. It was through those relationships and it was through the distribution system that Sandhills Ag Innovation provides that we were able to move our product and our food during the crisis.
We thought it was going to be hard to fill the 200 boxes. I think about a week we were already at max capacity. And so that kind of told us too that our community needed to be served in more of a capacity than we were traditionally looking at. COVID was a shakeout that I think local food needed and exposed that our globalized food system that we have bought into is not going to work.
Prior to COVID, we were working on connecting farmers to new markets. So we have been a food access organization for years. When COVID hit, we started to function as a food assistance organization. We approached this FarmsSHARE program in tandem with ABC2, A Better Chance, A Better Community. And in some cases, we've been able to work with some of the same farms because we work in adjacent areas. We serve Warren County, ABC2 is based in Halifax County. And in fact, our partners in distributing FarmsSHARE boxes through this program were members of the Haliwasaponi tribe, which is located on the boundary between Halifax and Warren counties. So it was a good opportunity to reach out to farmers in that area, such as Lynette Hewlin at Forever Vista Farms.
So during COVID, it has really helped us see a direction in which we're going for Forever Vista Farms.
With ABC2, where they were providing produce boxes, and we were able to do that. Along with that, brought opportunities for a farmers market here locally that we're providing to.
It actually did help us to launch our products and to extend to people that normally would not have been in contact with.
And so the FarmsSHARE program provided us with an opportunity to extend healthy, locally grown food into a community where there are not a lot of other access points for it.
Most of them were seniors. They're on low fixed income, so they're not able to get fresh food every week like they did receive on Fridays. So they were quite different than the normal produce boxes that we're used to. They rather get the fresh food because they know what they're getting. They're from the old days, they're used to the farm food. Most of them grew up on the farm back in the day.
When times are tough, who we really have and who we can really count on is local farmers and our fellow community members. And that's what FarmsSHARE is all about, is connecting those local growers and providers of food to those who need food basically in their own communities. Food system resilience is something that's going to serve our rural, economically distressed region well for years to come. So this is a program that's crucial during the pandemic, but it's building the kind of resilience we need to have a stronger food economy in rural North Carolina going forward.
The question of local food is also a question of food security. It's a question of justice.
And there's going to be more of a conversation on what does a local food system look like and what needs does it take to be able to make it robust.
We need to provide local systems that are going to be more nimble, more flexible. And regrettably, I think that this crisis illustrated that.
This pandemic crisis has really shown, and FarmsSHARE has shown, that these markets were able to pivot on their heels really quickly to serve their communities. And I think it's really shown a lot of stakeholders in county government and state government levels that creating resilient food systems, the core of that work is going to be creating markets for small farmers, figuring out how to connect local producers with local markets of any kind, be it emergency feeding or restaurant markets. The process overall has kind of pushed forward the local food system like 5 to 10 years. I mean, it's been a lot of work, but all of that was built on years of trust that had been developed through CFSA and our networks and through these food hubs and their networks in their local community. And without those 2 layers of trust in the local community through the food hubs and with CFSA through these other providers, it couldn't have happened. We talked to folks in Virginia who wanted to try and to do this same model, and they just quickly realized that that level of trust and those networks and those connections did not exist in Virginia, so it just could not happen on this scale. The connections and trust that have been built over years enabled this to go to the next level, catalyzing it even further.